The humble herring may not seem capable of sinking a ship, but that's exactly what it did to the ill-fated MV Ingrid Frem, which sank beneath the waves on the 12th of October 1976, whilst on a journey from Douglas in the Isle of Man to Scheveningen in the Netherlands. As you'd expect, there's a load more to this story, and I'm going to cover it later on in the video. But the first thing to say is everybody thought they knew where the wreck of the Ingrid Frem was. It wasn't there. We found it whilst we were looking for the elusive US Coast Guard Tampa, which we've done a whole load of dives trying to find and not been successful yet. I think this is something that often confuses people. How is it that you were able to do so much diving and dive so many wrecks, yet not able to find the one that you want? And the answer to this question lies in the fact that there are so many wrecks off the British coast, and we actually know so little about so many of them. I mean, just looking at this area here, this is all 90, 100 metres deep, and you can see the number of wrecks that there are here. Now, lots of these have got names against them, but frankly, that's often the UK Hydrographic Office guessing. They have no idea what is down there. So, and nobody's ever dived them. The only people who will dive them are the very small number of people like me. And as you can see, there's an absolute ton of them. This part of the world is also really difficult to dive from. The only port really offering access to that north coast area there into the Celtic Sea is the fishing port of Newquay, which is where we went from. It's very small and very tidal, which makes loading fun.
How you feeling getting the kit in, Will?
Yeah, it's nice being one of your groupies and having to do all your kit for you, Dom.
Excellent, good on you. I brought you for a reason.
But hey, influencers don't need to do their own kit, do they?
Like and subscribe.
And share.
And on top of that, there's only really one charter boat that is capable of getting out far enough to dive these wrecks. And Chris, who is fantastic, does not do this full time and only takes out relatively select groups. So we're really, really lucky. And I'm particularly lucky to be part of this team that are known as the Gasparados. It's a team run by Steve and Barbara Mortimer, who have found a whole load of wrecks over the years. And I've been very privileged to be part of their team for a few of those. Now, Barb's doesn't really do the deep diving anymore, but she has the unenviable task of doing the research. So she looks at the data that we have, the very limited data on the Tampa. So there's some stuff from the convoy that was the last people to see them. There's some stuff from the German U-boat. But all of it has a huge area of uncertainty. On top of that, she overlays what we can get from the UK Hydrographic Office, which once again is pretty sparse. And out of that lot, she tries to make some sense about where the Tampa might be. And based on her research, that's what we go and dive. So in this case, the data is from a survey that was carried out in 1980. So 45 years ago, we travel 38 miles out to sea, and once we get there, we have a look and see what we've got on the sonar. It's always a bit nerve-wracking when you get onto site. There's no sign of land. There's nothing there. All you've got is the GPS and the sonar, and you're just sitting there looking at them, hoping that something is going to pop up.
Ooh, here we go. Ooh.
There is something.
What makes you say that?
No.
It's a net. It does look like a net.
Then put the top down there. Oh, you got different things.
But what's the net on? That's what you got to ask yourself.
But once all the speculation and the banter is finished, there's only one thing to do, and that's to get yourself in the water. Quite unusually for me, I'm not diving with Rick, but I'm diving with Steve, who's another guy I've done loads of diving with. He organises lots of the trips out of Plymouth and is another great diver. Like me, he's on his scooter. Like me, he's also really excited by the prospects for this dive. We've got high hopes for the visibility, and we've also got high hopes that finally today is going to be the day when we find the Tampa and we solve this mystery once and for all. But there's the shot. You can see conditions are absolutely wonderful. It's not always like this when we dive, but when we do, it's really, really special. You can see there's almost no currents. the two boys there, one of them is the lazy shot and one of them is the main shot. The fact that they're both together like that is a really good sign that there's no currents. You can see there that I'm using my scooter to start pulling me down, and actually as we look down that lovely yellow shot line, you can see how good the vis is looking. So that's really, really nice. You can also see there's a diver in front of me there. Now that's not quite so good because that's one of the first divers in. We were divers 3 and 4, so that's diver either 1 or 2. I happen to know from his box that is Steve Mortimer. He had problems with his ears on some previous diving the week before and said that he might not be able to get down. It looks pretty much as though that is what has happened to him, which is really sad because finding the Tampa is something he's put a huge amount of personal effort into, and therefore if we were to find it today and he wasn't going to be able to do the dive, it'd be really sad. But you can see there he's just indicated to me that it is problems with his ears, but that he's okay. So that's good news, that he's okay. Bad news that he's not going to be able to get down. And unfortunately, Steve doesn't actually manage to complete this dive. So he ended up coming back up and getting out of the water. Not much I can do about that, so my task here is to get myself down. I'm the one who's carrying all the video cameras, so I'm pretty much the one who's going to record whatever we've got down there. So here I am scooting down. You can see 20 odd meters. It's a lovely thing about being on a scooter is you just get down really quick. You can see I'm using my left hand there just to clear my ears as I go down, because it is at quite a rate of knots. And there you go. There's the end of the lazy shot. This is Chris's. It's slightly different to some of the other lazy shot systems that we've seen. He doesn't actually have a quick release. He just has a bit of rope there, or that kind of blue string. So when it comes to time to release it, the last person just cuts that. You can see there, I'm going to put my tag. I've just put it on the blue string. And in a moment, I'm going to think, actually, maybe that's not such a good idea. But the first thing I do is I'm going to clip on my dive Voke. So for those of you who haven't seen the dive Voke, this is the thing that I'm using now instead of my Kindle on decompression. So it's a housing that I can put a mobile phone in it, and what it means is I can watch films and stuff on my deco stops. It is brilliant. I cannot tell you how much I love this dive Voke. I'm going to do a video about it at some point. But as you can see here, what I managed to do is get one of the clips snagged on my my goodie bag there. I've moved my clip back in. I'm sticking it on the string. The first diver, so bearing in mind there was only one diver ahead of me now, so that's Jacob. Steve, who was meant to be diving with him, had to bail out. So Jacob's down there by himself. Now he's quite cool about that. He knew that was a potential possibility, but obviously it'll be nice for him to see some other divers. I've just moved his clip, as you saw there, and the reason is that if that piece of blue string were to break and it is the weak link, then obviously his tag would be lost. So that's me. As you can see, they're coming up to about 40 meters. What you can also see is the water was quite green, a bit shallower. What you can see is it's now gone blue. There you go. I'm looking up there. You can see Steve's on his way down as well. And the difference between blue and green water is basically where the plankton is. So this time of year in the UK, we tend to get a plankton bloom in the sea round about May time. It was quite thick off the north coast, but as you can see there, it's died off to almost nothing. So there's just that thin green layer, but it's not done anything to the visibility. It's not done anything to the amount of light that we're getting down here. You can see it's absolutely lovely, really, really light, which is fantastic. As you saw there, I'm just preparing my strobes when I get to the bottom. On the back of a recommendation somebody gave me on one of my YouTube videos, I've changed the clip. I no longer use that bit of bungee to kind of secure it to the line. I've now got a John clip that I'm using instead. I have to say, I don't know, or I can't remember who gave me that tip, but it's a brilliant idea. Love it to bits. Thank you very much. And a few of the other guys have seen it and they're going to be starting to do it as well. So love that. I love the fact that, I'm learning things from people commenting on my YouTube video. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. So back to the MV Ingrid Frem, which is what I'm going to find down there. But of course, I've got no idea of that at this point in the dive. So the Ingrid Frem was a Danish ship built in 1972, single largest diesel engine, single screw. It was about 50 meters long and about 8 meters wide. 300 ton, small cargo ship, little kind of freighter. used for moving bits and pieces around the North Sea mainly. It was sunk on a voyage from the Isle of Man to the Netherlands, as I've already said. Now, the bit that I've teased you about is how did it sink? And it actually sank because its cargo shifted in some horrendous weather in October 1976. And the cargo it was carrying was barreled herrings. So when I say this ship was sunk by fish, it is actually true, although possibly not in the sense that I teased at the beginning of the video. So you can see here that I'm getting to the bottom of the shot. It's taken us quite a long time, but we are here now. And look over to my right and I just see that there, which is a massive, massive thing and completely unexpected. I was expecting to see a large fishing net tied on a little bit of wreckage. And what we've seen down there is massive. My first thought is actually it's a submarine. It's so intact and it looks kind of that kind of roundish shape. So I'm thinking that's the front of a submarine that's been blown off. And it's only when I get a bit closer that I realise that that isn't true. It's not a submarine. It's actually a bit of hull with the hull lying on its port side. And then when I look down here, I just see all of these things. I'm like, what on earth are they? And they're barrels, clearly. And you'll see that some of them have got a bluish colour, so blue barrels. And to my thought, they're plastic as well. There we go. That's looking up at a cross section of the hull. That bit there has almost been ripped open, so probably inside one of the holds here. I've just come out of the remains of a hold and I'm looking up at the superstructure there. That's what looks like a winch there that's kind of come off and broken away, and there's a whole load of smashed up bit of wreckage there. So this bit of a dive on an unknown is always really confusing because you just don't know what it is that you're seeing. You're just trying to put it all together and to make sense. And then when I look up there, that is clearly a bridge. And it's like, wow, okay. So I'm instantly thinking this is not an old ship because frankly, it's unusual for old ships to be this intact. And I'm you know, bear in mind what I was expecting was the Tampa, which was a vessel sunk in 1918. I then think I've seen a submarine, and what I'm realising I'm looking at now is probably something that is far more modern than either one of those. But it's a bit odd as well. So there's some bridge windows, or what looks like bridge windows, to the right. Then there's this gaping hole to the left here that I'm going to go over, and you'll see when I come back later on that this is actually the bridge. And so a big chunk out of the middle of the wreck where the bridge windows would be has been ripped off and is gone. And when I go inside there later on, you'll see there's no, or very little bridge gear as well. So there's no helm, there's no telegraphs, there's nothing like that. So it's all vanished. I have no idea what needs to happen to a ship to do that level of destruction on it, but it's pretty incredible. Anyway, on the dive, I am moving backwards, as you can see here. So this is pretty much the stern of the boat, and you can see once again there's something else. There's something else on the back, you know, possibly another winch, something like that. I've got my torch out to help me have a bit of a better look. But this is you can see there's some railings, and everything is just covered in a huge amount of marine life. It's actually really nice. It's very, very pretty. All these anemones and those kind of things. And that's about as much as I know about this kind of stuff. There's also a whole load of fish. There's also Steve, who's trying to communicate with me, probably saying something like, this isn't the Tampa, and where's that massive net, and doesn't this look a bit like a submarine? I'm sure that's pretty much what he's saying. Also, you can see here the back of the wreck is kind of ripped open as well. So I don't really spend much time looking at it, but inside there is going to be the engine somewhere. There's obviously that hatch. There's various other bits and pieces lying around. You can see there's cables and that kind of stuff. So it's clearly there's electricity on this boat, or this ship rather. So this is definitely not an old ship. It's also, this bit of the wreck is on its port side as well. So that's kind of me just trying to get my bearings, I guess. The great thing is I'm on the scooter, so I can kind of look around. This is obviously the bottom of the hull, just in front of me there. You can see the shot line. You can also see there's a whole load more barrels various other bits and pieces. Will said he saw a bit of the prop down there. I have to say I didn't see it, or if I did see it, I didn't recognise it. Just tons and tons of these barrels. And of course, what was in these barrels? Inside these barrels were herring. For those who don't know, herring is a very popular dish in that part of Europe. The Netherlands have all sorts of festivals and stuff about the herring. It's super important, and presumably, I don't know, the Isle of Man is a good place for catching herring. So I would imagine that this ship went to the Isle of Man, picked up a load of herring, and was taking it all the way back to the Netherlands for them to enjoy. And I think they pickle it. Now, how do we know that it was carrying herring? Well, we have access to the Lloyd's Register, and the Lloyd's Register gives us information about where it was going and also what it was carrying. Of course, I know none of this during the dive. I am simply moving forward, trying to think, what on earth have we found here? How come there are so many barrels on this wreck? Anyway, I'm moving forward. I've decided that the bow is the place to be now, just to try and get my head around what is going on with this wreck. You can see here, this is just me travelling along various cargo holds. Looks like the edge of a hold here. I'm just coming out of it onto the bow. Now, one of the interesting things about the bow is, whereas the stern was on its port side, the bow is clearly on its starboard side. So at some point, this wreck has twisted really, really badly. That may have happened due to the storm and the damage that it sustained when all those herring shifted and caused it to sink. Optionally, it may have been done when the ship hit the bottom, because obviously it went, well, not obviously, I think it went down really quickly. Now, this is right at the front of the bow. That is, in fact, the very pointy end of the ship. So I'm going to go over the top and have a look around. You can see there the prow. You can see there also how crumpled it is as well. And you can see up on the side that there is an anchor as well. So this is the bow. Really interesting to see what is here. I'm obviously taking a bit of video. I'm messing around with my video lights. One of the things with those butterflies is that they don't always hold the video lights particularly straight. Mine are not great, but anyway, got them sorted there. You just probably saw on the left-hand side there, you can see there's the anchor. I've put my torch directly on it. And then to the right of that, you can see the bow and what looks to me like it's really badly crumpled. So it may be that crumpling is what caused so much destruction to the wreck. Maybe it hit the seabed really hard, and that then caused it to twist. It caused all those barrels to fall out. Potentially, it caused something to fall on the bridge and knock that huge hole. I mean, but what you can see here is you can see the wreck is absolutely smashed to bits. So what would have been the port side in this point is completely gone. The entire side of that cargo hold is missing. But I'm back on top of the barrels again. And you can see they're clearly blue barrels. They're clearly plastic barrels. These kind of things, if you go to any fishing port, you will recognise these things. They're used in huge numbers. And I've got a bit of a video clip later on, which is Steve. He got to the surface first and everybody was quizzing him. And I think they were expecting the Tampa, and they said to him, "What did you find down there?" And he said, "I found some blue barrels." And everybody looks at him, if I'm honest, in complete disbelief. But he was obviously bang on, because that is exactly what there is. So the more astute of you may have noticed that I've actually changed my video platform. So this is now on the front of the scooter. So this is the GoPro rather than my Paralenz. And I've done this just so you can get a kind of really good feel for the bow of the ship. So you can see there's the hawsers. You probably saw the chains that were going down to the anchor, and those hawsers had actually popped through the deck, which I think gives an indication of how much impact there must have been. So I think that supports my theory that this thing went down bow first, hit the bottom really hard, and perhaps that was what caused the twisting motion. Potentially that's what smashed in the bridge as well. So I'm going to go back to the bridge in a bit. So this is me actually now. I'm kind of heading sternwards on the wreck again, following along the starboard side. There's a diver in front of me there. I think that is perhaps Will. You can see he's heading back towards the shot line there. Obviously, I've got a scooter, so I'm kind of speeding past it. and these kind of dives where you do have to cover distance, that's really quite nice. And you can see once again, you can see all those barrels, you can see all the fish. You get the kind of strange kind of Star Wars effect of all the stuff going past me, and obviously the video lights are kind of helping a bit with that as well. So I'm probably more on, heading a bit more onto the port side now, because obviously this is the side on which this bit of the wreck is laying, and that's me going up onto the top of the wreck, or what would have been the top of the wreck, except obviously the whole wreck is lying on the port side, so on its left hand side. What you can see here is there's all sorts of pipes and stuff sticking out, maybe bits of mast and things. And when you look back at the photo of the wreck, you can actually see all those things. So here's the bridge. There's those two windows that are on the port side, and this is now going into the bridge. Obviously, there's a whole load of fish in here, but then there's basically nothing else, which is really surprising, because you would expect the bridge to be full of all sorts of things. Perhaps all this stuff at the back is what was the bridge gear, but I don't know, there's just not enough for me. So you can see I've switched back to my Paralenz here, and the reason for that is, as you can see there, I've just let go of the scooter and I'm having a look and see what I can find in here. So there's a few bits and pieces. There was a porthole there. There's whatever this thing is, obviously, just pulling it has just pulled up a cloud of silt and everything, which is always what happens in these kind of things. Obviously, it's easy enough for me to get out of here. There's that big gaping hole just behind me. But I'm having a look and seeing what else is in here. Obviously what I'd really like to find at this point in the dive is a maker's plate. And, potentially there is one in this part of the bridge that I thought might be one. It's not. It's just a bit of something or other. Don't know what it is. I have a good look at it, see if there's any writing on it, but there isn't. And you can see there's a whole load of cables behind it and everything. So it's really clear that this is a modern ship. And going back to that thing, when we got to the surface, everybody was having this big discussion about what had been seen. So so Steve had been in first. Steve didn't get to the bottom, so he got out. The next team out were a couple of guys I'm going to see on the shot later on. They got, I think they got the message from us that it wasn't a particularly great dive, so they basically turned around and came back up. So they really didn't see very much the wreck, apart from one of the divers had told them it was the Tampa, so they got to the surface and told everyone it was a Tampa. I don't know why. I think he was probably teasing them or whatever. And then the next person up was Steve, and Steve came up and reported these blue barrels, and that didn't fit in with anything anybody thought. So I was the next diver up, and I got out of the water, and everyone said, "What did you see down there?" And I was like, "Well, I think it's a modern freighter, and it's carrying a big cargo of blue plastic barrels." At which point, Steve, who got out of the water just before he let out a big cheer, because I think he felt that it validated, what he'd said. Now, I've just found something else there. I've no idea what it is. It's partly made of brass, but doesn't look very interesting. So it's still down there, and you can see, I'm kind of having a look around, but not really finding anything particularly interesting in here, other than the fact that there's this big gaping void here, and obviously the mast there directly in front of it. One of the thoughts I had was perhaps whether that mast had smashed down and smashed the top of the bridge. Clearly it didn't, because it's upright and everything there, but something has clearly smashed that bridge in, whether it was the force of the waves. And if you read the sinking report, there's a newspaper report about the sinking of the Ingrid Frem, and it talks about the vessel being pounded by the waves. Now, the good news is all the crew got off it, and they were rescued by a helicopter. The Navy Sea King from Coldrose came along and picked them all up and took them away. So nobody died on it, which is fantastic. It was just the loss of a ship, and those awful barreled herring, which no doubt lots of people didn't enjoy their favourite snack later on that year. But so this is me on top of the bridge here. There's various other bits and pieces, loads of nets and stuff as well. So as you would expect from a wreck, it's just covered in netting. This is me going along the side of the wreck now. So and then there's the shot line. You can see it over there. I think I am pretty much decided that perhaps my dive is done. It's easy to forget that this is 90 metres. It's the deepest dive I've done this year. I've done a few others in kind of upper 70s, but I haven't really touched 80 metres. So, you know, you need to kind of respect that. You need to take reasonable precautions. And one of the things I like to do is obviously first deepish dive of the year is make sure that I don't really, you know, kick the arse out of the run time. So I've not done that. It's not a super long dive, but it's been a really interesting one because obviously, you know, I don't know it yet, but when we get to the surface, we're going to be able to ID this wreck. We're going to be able to, you know, say for certain that it's not where people thought it was. And obviously there's this kind of interesting story about the cargo of fish sinking it. As you can see there, I've just picked up my Strobes, and one of the things I've got there is a brand new strobe. I really like it. It's a really cool one. It's different to the other ones. I'm going to do a video about it and explain why it's my new favourite strobe. So you'll look out for that in the next week or so. But not next week or so, in the next few weeks. But as you can see, I'm heading up the shot line here, and that's me explaining to the divers coming down that it's not the world's greatest dive, and at this point I don't think it is. So these two guys, they get down a bit further, they see the other diver who is below me there. We saw him at the stern, and he tells them that it's a Tampa, and they then go up. I think they turn around, they go up, and they tell everyone at the surface it's a Tampa, and obviously we have to correct that when we go up. So you can see here I'm scooting up, making quite good progress. You can also see how quickly the colour of the water changes from a bit murkier at the bottom to kind of blue again. You see the visibility is absolutely fantastic. So that's really nice. You can also see I've just cut the video a bit there, so leapt up a bit, and you can see I've just, that's Steve, who's on his ascent. He's a bit further ahead of me, so he didn't do as long at the bottom, so he'll be getting out of the water before me, and you've already heard the story about the blue barrels and when he gets to the surface. But we're both there at the moment. He's got a bit of a leak by the looks of things coming from one of his cylinders on his dill side. Not sure whether it's his suit inflate or whether it's his diluent. Hopefully the suit inflate, otherwise the diluent is quite an expensive loss. And you can see there, just having a quick look at my handset, and what I'm doing with my right hand there is I'm just changing the set point on my handset, so I'll be increasing that to 1.5 to accelerate my deco. And once I've done that, I will be coming back to the shear water on my right hand and changing the set point on that. And you can see this is what I'm doing here. So I'll be upping that to 1.5. In fact, that's good. I've managed to get it in my Paralenz, so you can see me doing it there, changing the high set point to 1.5, and that just is reflecting what I've got set on my handset. So both my computers are in agreement, and hopefully, you know, the deco should be similar. Always a good idea if you've changed a setting on a dive computer to go back and have a quick look at it, so you can see that's what I'm doing there, just making sure that I have actually got 1.5 set and returning to the kind of normal front screen on my shear water. You probably just see there I've come up a bit high. My shear water's gone yellow, so I'm at 38.7. I should be at 39. Actually, there you go. It's just clear. It's the deco stop has gone up to 36 meters, so I'm okay. But this is a bit later on now, and you can see there that is the lazy shot, about 32 meters. Slightly different way of doing it to the one that is you'll have seen on some of, say, the in deep videos. A bit more kind of basic, Chris's, but hey, it works, and that's the main thing. You'll also see we've got a whole load of stuff on there, and the reason is that those two bags, they have got the Dive Voke underwater phone housings, which we are now all starting to use because we put phones in there and we watch videos on deco stops. They are brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and once again, that's going to be another video of mine. I'm a huge fan of them. But as you can see here, I'm just taking mine off. I've got two clips on it because clearly the housing itself is about £200. And inside there, it's got my actual phone, which is obviously worth a bit more. So clearly I don't want to lose it. That's why I have the double clip system. So it's always secured to something. And in this particular case, I've got it secured to that kind of D-ring that's on the handset. It also managed to get snagged a bit there on something else. But anyway, there we go. That's got rid of. And then you can see, looking down the line there, you can see all the other divers coming up. That's Will, who carried my gear on board. He's the one on the right. And then that's James and Michael, both on XCCRs. Both good lads, done loads of diving with them. You may recognise James from my bailout video. And speaking of decompression profiles, which I wasn't, this is my profile for the dive. You can see it's about 90 metres. My diluent on this dive is slightly rich. It's 882. You could have done probably with a bit better one for this dive, but hey, there you go. I wasn't entirely certain of the depth. There you go. You probably saw I had about an hour and a half TTS at the bottom. That's me coming up through all my deco stops. You can see it there, and obviously clear the water just over the 2 hour mark. So really, really nice dive, and fairly decent profile there as well for the kind of first really deep dive of the year, I guess. This is right at the end of the dive. With the lazy shot system that Chris uses, there isn't a trapeze, so we all tend to bag off and keep the lazy shot in our eye line. So we're all there on DSMBs. DSMBs just make it easier. This is me at the end of my dive. I'm going to be coming up. You'll see the boat in a second, which is always a good sign. You see how wonderful the conditions there are as well. Great visibility, lovely, warm, bright, sunny day, flat, calm seas, just what you want. Well, that's the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something interesting about how dangerous herring are to shipping. And as always, I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Oh, in fact, I think I'm about to take a photo of the boat using the dive Voke. So that's what's going to happen. And in fact, this is the photo I took. I think it just shows how great these housings are and what fantastic imagery you can get from them. Okay, that's definitely it. See you on the next one.